G'day YouTube. Today I'm going to take a look at the NECA Bilbo Baggins, which is a 1:4 scale action figure. This is NECA's 6th action figure in the 1:4 scale for Lord of the Rings and the Hobbit. They've done Aragorn, Gandalf, Legolas, they've done Smeagol and Gollum, and now they've got Bilbo Baggins himself. So this is the front of the box, side of the box, and the back of the box. So we have quite a bit of information on the back here, including a short description on Bilbo himself, and then we have a bit of a blurb about the Hobbit there. Now, taking a look at Bilbo in his packaging, there's not a whole lot to it. There's no other accessories except on this side here, just in here. If you can see that, you've got Sting in its scabbard with the scabbard belt as well. So I'll take this out of the box and we'll take a look at some of Bilbo's finer details. So this is Bilbo out of the packaging. My first impressions are that NECA's done quite a good job with this figure. It has a striking resemblance to Martin Freeman, maybe not as much as I was expecting, but it's still quite good. A lot of the moulding detail is really nicely done as well, and the paint application is also really nicely done. As you can see, he freestands really nicely just on his feet. Overall, I am happy with this figure, and I'm glad that I got him because I think he'll go nicely with the rest of the NECA line. So looking at a bit of a close-up of the face mould there, you can see that it does actually look like Martin Freeman. It's probably not as good as some of NECA's other moulds that I've seen, like for example on Gandalf and Legolas, and even the Smeagol one, I must admit. But it's still, you can still tell that it looks like Martin Freeman, so they have done a good job there. And you can also see some of the finer detail on his coat there as well. Just quickly show you the back of the head, do a 360. Taking a look at Bilbo's jacket, it doesn't actually come off, but it does flex, so you can see underneath there. There's no detailing on the inside of the jacket, but you can see detailing like the pocket there on Bilbo's vest and some of the buttons there as well. His scabbard's actually coming off, which is one of the problems I'll get to in a minute. I'll just pull that off now. And lastly, this is Bilbo's feet. Now, as a lot of you Hobbit fans would know, feet are a pretty big element of a Hobbit. They don't wear shoes. And the actual mould on here looks quite nice. It's quite nicely done. It does look just like the Hobbit's feet do in the movies. So they have done a good job there. So this is a close-up of Sting. The actual moulding on this sword is really nicely done again. They've got some of the Elvish engravings and some of the Elvish engravings on the hilt. It looks quite nice as well. Now, something I thought I'd show you just because I happen to have it here. This is the NECA mould of Sting and the scabbard, and I just happen to have here a United Cutlery replica version. Now, it's going to be hard to fit them both in frame, but you can probably make out the actual hilt on the NECA mould. It's quite nicely done when you compare it to, for example, a proper movie prop replica here. But the actual NECA mould basically looks exactly like the prop replica. So they've done quite a nice job there. One downside I'll say is that the actual belt here on my example isn't quite long enough to go around Bilbo's waist with enough room to actually hook in properly. So as you might have seen before, the actual belt just sort of falls off. In terms of articulation, I'm not going to go through every single joint, but he has articulation basically in quite a few places. His wrists move, his elbows move. You can see most of the joints here in his feet. He has joints in his knees, in his waist. His head has quite good articulation as well. It not only swivels on a head joint, but his neck also moves as well, which is quite nice because you can really get realistic poses from his head. However, the one thing I will say is it's probably going to be quite difficult to display him sitting down because there's limited articulation to have the knee bend at a complete right angle. For most purposes of displaying this figure, you'll be able to put him in some form of action pose where he's engaging with some of the other figures in the line. So the first comparison I've got here is with Smeagol. As you can see, these guys, they just go so well together. As you can see, this is Gandalf with Bilbo. Even though they're both quarter scale, I think Bilbo looks a little bit too small when compared to this Gandalf. But realistically, when you have them beside each other like this, they do look good together, and it would be a really nice way to display them. This is Gandalf's sword, Glamdring. The quality of the plastic on Glamdring here just seems to be significantly stronger and better than the quality that they've used on Sting. This Sting feels really cheap. It feels really thin and plasticky, whereas this Glamdring feels solid. The moulding on it feels and actually looks much finer than the moulding on this on Sting. And the actual paint applications on Glamdring also seem to have been done with a little bit more care and a little bit more precision. I'm not sure if it's just the fact that the Sting is such a smaller sword that I'm getting these impressions, and there's actually no difference in terms of the plastic or the molding, but there does seem to be a significant difference. However, all in all, I mean, it realistically is a nice representation of Sting. In any case, thank you very much for watching my review. I hope you found this useful if you're considering buying Bilbo yourself. If you have any questions, just put them in the comments and I'll see if I can help you out. Anyway, thanks very much for watching, and bye for now.